Hey all, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be taking a look at a helicopter. I meant to look at this a while ago when we looked at the 2008 universe version of Blades, but you know, we kind of went off track a little bit with Rise of the Beast and a couple of KOs of some Beast Wars Neo characters. We're getting back on track a little bit now with Megatron's right-hand man, at least in the movies, by way of Blackout, Voyager class Blackout, the original Voyager class Blackout. He's going to be our focus this time around in the latest GotBot True review. Hey all, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, your most humble of hosts, Dennis Moulton, aka GotBot. As always, man, please like, comment, share, of course, subscribe, and while you are at it, light 'em up, baby. Hit that notification bell, please. It helps me out a ton, and it lets you know when content of all sorts goes up here on the channel. Check out Machinery of Man, The Everything Factor, all the groups that I'm either a mod or an admin for, as well as all of my social media links. All of that's in the description down below, and also in the description down below. And if you're in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link. Check us out on Patreon. See what we have to offer to you through Spring, or of course, hit the join button at any given time and become a channel member. And this is Voyager class Blackout from the movie line. And I've always heard, I'll say, mixed reviews of this guy, so to speak, and thanks to Maximal 10, I'm getting an opportunity to look at him myself. I will note two things right now. One, I kind of prematurely think that I have him completely transformed when I don't. There's a couple of things that I miss. I do go back and I do fix it, but in between that, I do a comparison of him next to the Studio Series Blackout in robot mode. So when I think I'm done the transformation, like I said, there's a couple of things there that I simply forgot, to be honest with you. I don't have instructions or anything, so a lot of this is from like wishing a prayer, figuring it out. And a couple of things I guess I just didn't retain in my memory. Like I said, I do go back and rectify it. I'll point out very quickly what it is now. For example, this cage, I forget to turn that around. The flap on his arm, I leave it down over his hand. And I try to explain how the shoulder pieces here kind of work, because there's a couple of holes there that go over rectangular, I guess, vertical rectangular tabs. And it looks like there's two slots on the inside, but there's actually three. There's a third one near the back that's smaller than the other two. In robot mode, just so we're clear, the third small slot is what should be over the rectangular pegs back here. Just a couple of things to note. Oh, and I forget to turn these things around, but I forget that all the time. So like I said, I do rectify it. You'll see as we go through. It does not change the transformation score or any of the scores. But if you happen to notice that I say, hey, we're done, and you're thinking to yourself, GotBot, you're not done. I know. So without any further ado, and with that caveat aside, how about we head over to the table and take a closer look at this guy. And so we took a little caveat from this guy for a little bit, and we're only getting back to it now. When I looked at the Universe Blades, the one from 2008, I said we had a couple of helicopter lads that we were going to look at, and then we took a caveat and a sidestep to Beast Wars Neo with a KO of Break and Stampy. And our last review looked at the Rise of the Beasts Studio Series Scourge. We're getting back to Blackout here, who of course was in the first film. The whole reason, and this kind of got lost along the way, the whole reason I'd hoped to actually do this guy closer to that Blades is because Blades is a reuse of the Cybertron evac mold, and this mold got used as a version of evac as well, and there are some hard ports kind of on his shoulders that's meant for like the big rotating blade accessory, but they are actually the same size as Minicon Power Links ports from Unicron Trilogy. So like both that Blades and this Blackout kind of have links to the character of evac and links to Unicron Trilogy. Go figure, I just thought it was kind of a funny coincidence between this guy and that guy. This guy turns into a licensed MH-53 Pave Low helicopter. A lot of people say it's not accurate to the film. I mean, I feel like it's okay accurate, but to be fair, of course, when we first see Blackout, like, it's dark. He's dark. This probably is inaccurate, but it was good enough for the time. Of course, we have the Studio Series. I'm not showing that helicopter next to this one. It's gigantic helicopters on screen. That one, though, whether you get the Grindor or the Blackout Studio Series Edition, either of those is a grossly bigger helicopter than this. For the record, since I mentioned Studio Series Blackout, I looked at him a long time ago, way back in 2018, in May of 2018, in episode 402. Now, to be fair, I'm going to do my best to show the transformation when we go through it, but it is noted as being a difficult transformation. I've done it a couple of times. It's not too bad, but I understand the concerns and criticisms that exist. As a helicopter, I think he looks like an alright helicopter. There is some very light battle damage sort of shading, I guess, scraping on the top of this guy that I didn't notice at first. It's very, very light. We also have a button back here that allows the rotors to rotate. I'll also note that there's a cage piece back here that it flexes down somehow. I can't recall right now how, but there's supposed to be a Scorponok in that cage. He's not in the cage. I don't have it. It might be in the bag. This is on loan to me by Maximal 10. Also, the Deluxe Scorponok apparently can attach underneath. I would show that, but again, I don't have the original Deluxe Scorponok. Unfortunately, those are a couple of features that I can't show, but they are definitely worth noting. This sometimes comes down on its own, and sometimes it's a nuisance to put back, and sometimes it stays. So, go figure. It might come down, it might not. Yes, I've sort of unhinged the legs here a little bit, but as far as helicopters go, I think this is about it. Do we have landing gear? I don't think. Well, I guess there is. There's that landing gear and this, but like, they're very small, is what I'll say about the landing gear. It's very small landing gear. We're going to basically avoid doing the scores until we get the guy in his robot mode, so I guess we'll jump into the transformation next. To do the transformation, I'm going to actually start off with kind of getting these sort of out of my way a bit. The legs, they come down. Now, here's the first thing worth noting. I guess I'll take this around. The legs, when they come down, there's an automorph feature. Whether that automorph feature works well or not is up for debate. Some say very much not. Some say, hey, it's not too bad. So we take that out. I'm also going to kind of get this here flipped out, and this here flipped out. And unattached and unattached. So the arms are unattached. These pieces that were up over the top are flipped out. Worth doing, worth noting, because, and also worth pushing that landing gear up. Because when we push the legs down, all of this automorphs. I didn't realize that's supposed to be an automorph feature when I pushed the legs down. So when I was first fiddling with this guy, I sort of like done kind of sort of automatically up here, right? Anyway, the legs, they're going to come all the way down, and when we do that, it pushes these pieces out to the side and pushes the head up. I'm going to take a leg here and bring out that foot and bring out that foot, turn and turn. Now there's a little extension that we can do where it makes the knees slightly come out here. Oh, I turned them the wrong way because the waist turns around. Pardon me. Should be this way? Yeah, this way and this way. My mistake, my mistake. We should also have somewhere here, I thought, a piece that comes down to become a heel spur. I'm going to find that heel spur so we can actually stand him up correctly, but that's kind of the lower body done with the automorph. Like, this is sort of the main robot-ish feature done. So I'm just going to kind of deal with this little section down here, back the camera up so we get a better angle. Okay, so things are sort of set up for me to make a couple of comments that I really do want to make. First, I couldn't remember where the heel spur was. I thought it was in here, but it's not. You actually open out a panel here in the back of the leg, and the heel spur was up there. And you bring it out and bring the panel down. Cool. The other thing worth noting is that there are rectangular pegs here, and that's what the shoulder pieces will basically tab into, but it's a little challenging, and you kind of got to flex the plastic a bit to make that happen, and I find it a bit uncomfortable. I've heard some people say, yeah, it is an uncomfortable part of the transformation, so I try generally to avoid it. So I have the legs there kind of sort of done. I have the upper body here, kind of sort of in. And now we have the arms and the kind of back section that still need to go. You might notice that I have a rectangular, I guess, tab here and or slot here and slot here. One of them is what's used here. I just don't recall which one off the top of my head right now, but I'll figure it out in a moment. So to do the arms, we come here and bring it down, and we bring out a hand and we turn the arm. Same thing on the other side. We're going to take the arm and bring it down, rotate out a hand, and turn it. Then we kind of collapse the entire back section here. And it's two things you gotta do. You gotta collapse this black section back here, and you want to line up the arms to make sure that they're tabbing in correctly here on the, where is it? Here on the side, like right here. This is a little uncomfortable to do, and I would definitely suggest being kind of cautious with it. Make sure the head is sort of straight. I do need to make sure that they're tabbed in, but in essence, though I do have some work to do here behind his head and with the shoulders, in essence, boom, for the most part, this is Blackout in his robot mode. And voila, here we have the Voyager next to the Studio Series leader. The Voyager without Scorponok, because I don't have the little PVC Scorponok with him, but without Scorponok, the guy clocks in at 208 grams. I would venture to say, knowing how tiny that Scorponok is, let's say it's 3 or 4 grams. I mean, he's probably around 210, 212 grams all in. The Studio Series one, 312. Little bit small for Studio Series. And I mean, when I say a little bit small for Studio Series, I actually mean a little bit small for a leader. Traditionally, but not by much. And he has a ton of parts and a ton of engineering, so it sort of makes up for it. I'm not getting into that. I'm just saying that comparatively, they're both pretty hefty dudes, right? The transformation here, the only reason that I kind of made that cut to make sure I had everything in is because I have heard not only can the mechanism for the nose cone and whatnot kind of become misaligned, though I haven't experienced that. I've also heard of people having issues and breakage either at the shoulder or at the peg when you're trying to peg it in. And quite frankly, trying to see and line up that rectangular peg with the rectangular slot. And there was 2 rectangular slots. The furthest slot back is the one you're using in robot mode. The front slot is the one you use in helicopter mode. So trying to line that up and make sure it's tabbed in, I didn't want to risk any sort of breakage. Again, you're tabbing them in to auto-morphing parts. So I didn't want to misalign anything, so I did that off screen. The transformation as it is, quite frankly, is very easy, very logical, very quick. For as cumbersome and convoluted as he looks, very quick, I'm giving the transformation for this guy a 10. I think I gave the transformation for him a 10 too. It's brilliant. Involved, but brilliant. In terms of looks, naturally the Studio Series one looks more the part. Still not perfect, but certainly looks more the part. The Grindor looks the part. I feel like this guy probably should have been a bit darker. This guy definitely is missing a ton of paint apps that he should have. A lot of silver and a lot of gold in particular. But you look at this and this. You look at either and like, you know it's Blackout. You know it's Grindor from the movies. Like, you know it. So while I think this guy is more successful, and I'll take him out of it, undoubtedly, at the time, this Voyager was pretty good. I'm going to give the look about, let's say a 7.5. Let's say a 7.5 for the look for the guy. A 10 and a 7.5. I mean, so far the guy's getting about an 8.75. Not too shabby if you ask me. The whole piece here on the back can come off. This whole chunk section, if I can get it off, I'm going to try and get it off. It does tab in here quite securely. Okay, don't yell at the screen. Again, I'm not using instructions. There are a couple of transformation pieces that I missed, that I overlooked through the initial transformation, but I'm going to rectify that now. So, I still think that the transformation is a 10, by the way. So I forgot to flip up these shoulder pieces. Admittedly, they certainly should be. My mistake. I also forgot that these hand pieces, I guess we'll call them, flip up on the arms. So that's 2 on the main body that I overlooked, I suppose you could say. Then, on the back, I was thinking that the top section of the helicopter pulled off. It doesn't, it flips down. But what we do have is a rectangular port and a rectangular peg right here. The whole thing comes off. That will flip down. And the last thing that I neglected to do, because I tend to forget about it because I don't have the little Scorponok, is this comes off and flips around to the outside. And I guess I should point this out. There's a peg there, and there's a black peg hole right there, and that fits in there. Okay, now that I got that rectified and remedied, we're going to try and show the way that this should work. So I'll use this side, because why not? And I'm just going to fold that in for now. Probably fold it in further than it needs to be. But I want to access this peg here. You can do the same on the other side. And that peg is going to go into this peg hole. Or it should go into that peg hole. Yeah, it does. Then we use the shoulder and I guess elbow to bring this up to hold on to the handle of the rotor, I suppose we say. And we bring the blades out. A lot bigger than the tail fin one. A lot bigger than what the Studio Series has. This is gigantic, and it does make him heavy. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know if I can even get him to stand up by himself without it. He keeps wanting to tip over. But that's how you do that. Even though I missed a couple of things, by the way, if you want, the button on the back still certainly does work, so that'll still rotate. I find this clunky and cumbersome, to be honest with you. I don't particularly like it on his arm, but, you know, that's just me, right? I don't think it changes any of the scores. The transformation is still a 10, and his look is still about a 7.5. He's still at 8.75. I'm going to put this piece back on his back, and then we're going to do the articulation. Okay, so now that we've got him all back together the way I prefer him, with all of the transformation bits done, man, I'm so sorry that I missed those parts. I guess I was a little over anxious, a little over enthusiastic, and I gave the boom, here he is transformed a little bit too early. I take ownership of it, guys. So, but here he is, and again, I don't have much of a problem with this other than he is kind of small for how he should be, right? Really, he should be bigger than Megatron. He's a lumbering hulk of a dude, right? So, yeah, he should be big. Articulation, I guess we'll fly through next. By the way, this is the way that I prefer him to be anyway. I don't like this piece taken off of his back. I like it left on here as it is. I did forget about the cage. What a bit of a shame, but I mean, it is what it is. And these things, I always forget to turn them around. Same with the hand pieces. I always forget to flip them up. So it's minor things, but important things, no doubt. Okay, so the articulation, the head can go left, it can go right, not really any up or down. The shoulders here, I mean, they can go well forward, certainly forward that far, and back that far, on ratchets no less. Out to the side, pretty well. Not perfect, but, I mean, again, look at all the junk on this guy. I think that's pretty good, especially for the time. We do have a bicep swivel. We do have elbow over 90 degrees. We do have a wrist able to go up, but no rotation or anything. I'll say this. I like his hands better than the Studio Series Blackout. I like his hands less than the Studio Series Grindor. Make of that what you will. So, yeah, head, okay. Arms, fantastic. Waist, I'm going to say no. No, he has a waist. Yeah, he has a waist. The waist and the upper body sometimes do like to come undone from one another, so I guess that's worth noting as well. When we get to the legs, leg all the way out to the side, leg all the way forward, leg all the way back, thigh swivel, ratchet at the knee to just under 90 degrees, but it's still pretty good. You can see the waist starting to come on tab there. For the feet, not really much movement there. No ankle tilt or anything. I think he would have benefited from an ankle tilt. I think he would have benefited from hip ratchets. I guess the hips have a soft ratchet. Yeah, they have a soft ratchet. I think the ratchets in the hips could have been a little stronger. I think the feet really would have helped with an ankle tilt. The reason I like this guy this way is, though he has a big backpack, it does work as a third stabilizing leg, which means this guy can stand like a champion, even with what I feel are slightly compromised feet. So, no ankle movement, really. A little bit limited on the head. He was getting an 8.75. I'm going to say the articulation. You can still get some pretty neat poses and stuff with him. I think better like this than with that big contraption on his shoulder. I'm going to give the articulation about, I'm going to give it an 8. I'm going to give it an 8. I think it's pretty good. 8.75. Overall, this guy's about an 8.3, 8.25, 8.3, roughly. It's definitely not a perfect Blackout, but it is a great Transformer. It is a great Blackout. And I think the biggest flaw that I've encountered with him is that he is a bit too small. The Studio Series is a little more accurate for scale purposes. And I guess the other caveat here is, though I gave him a pretty good score overall, keep in mind that he is known to have issues with the shoulders and those tabs, as well as the automorph of the chest. Just something to be aware of when you are transforming yours. Voyager, Blackout from the original Transformers movie line, I think he is a win. And here we are again, and here he is. You see what I mean? I thought I was done, and I wasn't. Which, honestly, in no small part comes because I was sort of excited to be done. I do generally find the transformation to be very, I don't want to say simplistic, because it's actually fairly involved, but I do find it smooth. Now, that's funny to say because a lot of people have noted how the two side pieces that kind of automorph, they can sometimes go off the track, along with the head flip gimmick. Some people have noted breakages, as I think I noted in the review, of like the tabs and stuff here on the shoulders. But like, this version on Loan to Me by Maximal 10 is pretty much fantastic. I don't have any of those issues. I haven't had any of those concerns. I've transformed him a few times now. I do prefer this up over his head. I don't really like taking the whole back piece off and putting it up on his shoulder. I find it makes him too side heavy. Maybe I just gotta find the right balance. I don't know. But I prefer him this way. I think that this is a great mold. I think that this is a great version of Blackout, and I think it's very clear that it's Blackout. Is it too small? Possibly. Is it well engineered? Yes. Is it well articulated? Yeah, generally it's pretty darn well articulated. I mean, a couple of minor limitations, but for the time, especially, I think it was very, very good. And even now, all these somewhat 16, 17 years later, he's still pretty great. I understand how somebody would opt for the Studio Series over this just for accuracy's sake, but when it comes to fun factor, I think this guy is even more fun than the Studio Series, and I adored the Studio Series. Let me know what you think about old Voyager Blackout. I know he's a bit polarizing for people. They tend to either love him or hate him. Let me know what you think. I appreciate you guys coming by, giving me some of your extremely valuable time. I do know how important it is to you. If you're in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link. Check us out on Patreon, see what we have to offer to you through Spring, or of course hit the join button, baby, at any given time and become a channel member. While you're at it, please hit the subscribe button, man. Stick around. Have some fun with us here on the channel, and especially don't forget that somehow, some way, each and every single solitary day, you right there, you do make a difference in the world. And I look forward to the next time that you and I get together to have another visit, either in the live streams on Thursday nights at the stop motion premieres, or the old-fashioned way, right here inside the videos.